What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's having a great day. So today's video is going to be how to set up a carnivorous plant tank. The reason I decided to do a video like this is because I've had a lot of questions on different types of setups. We've even had questions regarding like window setups and stuff like that. And for the most part, the window setups are pretty easy. I mean, you kind of just put a plant on the windowsill and kind of, take care of it, spray it down. But somebody, actually quite a few people have asked for a little bit more of elaborate setups, something such as a tank setup. There is some good tutorials on how to make some reptile, or not reptile, but carnivorous plant tank setups. So there's a couple other guys that do it, and those are very effective as well. So I'm just going to show on how I do my setups. It's a little bit different than everybody else's, but I find it pretty effective for me. So if you want to go ahead and give it a try, you can watch this step by step. I actually have two camera setups today. So we have the top view here, and then we have the bottom view down here. So that way you can see what's really going on and not miss everything. So let's go ahead and jump on in. So the main essentials that you're going to probably need for a tank setup such as this, you're going to obviously need some sphagnum moss here. So this is our jungle mix with our sphagnum moss mix. There's no perlite, no nothing. It's just the bare bones sphagnum in the jungle mix. And the reason you want to use this is you don't have to worry, because this is not going to touch the plants. I mean, it's not going to touch, it's not for the roots or anything. This is for more aesthetics and making sure that the humidity is going to stay up instead of just having bare water on the bottom. So this will kind of keep the humidities pretty consistent without worrying about evaporation and stuff like that. So you're going to need a bag of sphagnum moss. Then next you're going to need is some perlite. It doesn't really matter what kind of perlite you use. This is the reason I use this one. I have some different versions, but this is the only one that I can find at like a Home Depot. So I wanted to find something that was a little bit easier for people to find at their local hardware store or nursery. So you can go ahead and find something like this. You want to make sure it's all organic and it doesn't have like additives and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that that's not what that has. This one doesn't have any of that, and I've never had any problems using it before. But yeah, so you want to use some perlite, and this will be the media for the bottom. The next what you're going to want to use is a mesh layer. So this is going to divide the sphagnum from the perlite. You don't want it one big old messed up mix. So this is going to divide. So this is where the plants are going to sit. So you're going to have the perlite and then the mesh mix on top of this. Next thing you're going to want to use is some aluminum foil. Now you can get really crazy with this and get like the insulation wrap from Home Depot. It's a little bit more expensive and you usually have to buy a big roll, but you can buy aluminum foil for like $1, $2 at Target. I actually really like using this because it's super simple and you get a bunch of it and it's super cheap and it's very reflective. As you can see, I still use it on my wall over here for my plants. The biggest thing is you want things to look nice, but you also want functionality. And this runs nice on the glass. It's very flat and it's not going to be very thick like the bubble installation reflective. So after that, you're going to want to go ahead and use some sort of light fixture for this. Now, I usually put smaller plants in here. You don't want a very high intensity light as you can burn the leaves of the plants, and you could probably do more harm than good. So you want to use a very low wattage grow light. And these right here are very... I wouldn't say they're very low wattage, but they produce a lot. They produce next to no heat. This is from Fight Electric. This is the little grow light bar that they use. I use these on almost all my grow setups here. I even have their bigger setup versions, bigger lights. And these do really well. This will have no problem growing your plants, and they're super inexpensive. For a little one like this, it's probably like 30 bucks, $40 at Home Depot. You just have to check. Usually when they are in stock, they go pretty quickly, so if you're trying to get your hands on one, if you see them, try to get one. But yeah, these have really helped out with growth on my plants, and keeping the coloration in the plant itself very nice. They're always a nice red, orange. It really keeps the colors consistent. These are full spectrum grow lights. This one is a 13 watt, I believe. I could be wrong, I can't exactly remember, I have to look that up. But if you want to pick something up like this, I'll leave a link in the description below so you can go ahead and pick one up, because not all Home Depots pick them up, trust me, I've checked. So sometimes you do have to buy them online, and they do have multiple versions. So yeah, if you want to go with a light setup like this, you can definitely do that. You can also do a grow bulb as well. Let me show you over here. I have one here. This is also Fight Electric over here. This one does really well. This is the one that's currently growing my Bicalcarata. These produce a little bit more heat, but barely anything. Like, I can still touch my hand. If you can see that, I can touch my hand on it and it's just warm. That's all. So these do really well, as well as grow lights if you don't want to go with a grow bar. But they're about the same price. That's about $20. So for $10 more, you'll get a little bit bigger of a light and more full coverage once it's on top. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the lights. Next, I know there's a lot of moving parts here, but here is obviously you're gonna need a lid. You don't, honestly, you really don't need a lid if you don't want to, but I use a lid just because I do put saran wrap on the inside of the top, so that way the humidity stays very high. I usually keep the humidity for these plants around 100% to around 80%. But I do not cover it all the way. I leave some room here on the sides, and then on this side, sometimes I'll cut this back. You can see that. I'll cut this back so that way there's a space for you to put a humidifier or a fan. I do put like a small fan on these, depending on the types of plants that I put in there in itself. Lowlanders, they don't really care so much about air movement, but Highlanders do, in my personal opinion. Now, you know, people will have different opinions on different plants and stuff like that, but for the most part, I haven't really seen too much of a difference with Lowlanders and stagnant air. You want some airflow, but they're not as dramatic as a Highland Nepenthes, where they do prefer a lot more air movement instead of stagnant air sitting around them. So yeah, that's what you can do. You can do a mesh set with a saran wrap top. It doesn't have to be fancy. For the most part, this stuff is not going to look, you know, aesthetically pleasing all the time. I mean, that's just my OCD kicking in, but it's honestly not that bad. You can't even see it from the top other than this piece, and you could cut it from the side and it'd be completely fine. All right, last part, which is absolutely not needed, but I do it anyways, is a ultrasonic cool mist humidifier. You can usually find these in the medicine aisle in Target, and they're pretty inexpensive, about $30 instead of the Zoomed Reptifogger. I had one, and I'm not gonna lie, those things are garbage. Now, you might have a different opinion, but because I have so many plants, I have to use it. I use my humidifiers a lot, and that thing could not withstand it. It instantly ruptured right where the ultrasonic vibrator is, and the O-ring and the seal completely failed, so it started leaking water and actually almost drowned my Veitchii lowii over there, and that would have been a big loss, just because that plant has actually skyrocketed in value. So that's why I like using these now, because these are an enclosed case. There is just this little pump here, but it's very simple. It's a very simple setup. It's nothing too complicated. I have all of their ultrasonic misters in my grow setups. I've never had an issue with them. They pump consistently and beautifully. I think I've only had one that busted, but that was probably just a faulty one. You're always going to get ones, but the reason I like these is because you got warranty. on this. You can go to a Target and you can return it and not have to worry about playing the runaround game with ZoomEd because you need a new fan that you need to install in their system, and then that fails. They use a little cheap like $2 fan, and it's a real hassle instead of something like this where you could just put in the box, tell Target, yo, it's not working. They'll take it back, and then you can go and get another one, and it's consistent. I mean, that's the biggest thing, you know, you want consistency and you want something that's easy to replace if it breaks. So that's why I try to use things that are pretty available to me instead of using some crazy, like, elaborate grow setup. I mean, I can go really crazy with this stuff, but I try to use simplicity because the plants, you know, they're complicated in themselves already, but they need something that's consistent with their growth. So that's why I use something such as this. The nozzle here completely goes full 360 here. And then you can modify them however way you want. To like the nozzle, if you want, you can drill right into them and stuff like that. I use a soldering iron. It might not look the best, but this is for the one that sits on the top of the table. And I have this blow like 3-4 different ways, and all the plants get coverage. And this is the one that I run consistently all day long, and this thing has never skipped a beat whatsoever. The other one I have for this small one here, you can run a tube from the top. Let me see if I can grab it real quickly. So you can run a tube like this. You can jimmy rig it. You can drill a hole into it or melt a hole like I did. And then you can run the tube from the inside, so that way it just pumps all the way up and into your tank. And you don't have to buy some $100 system that was gonna fail on you anyways. You can just make your own. I mean, it just takes what, like, I think this took me like 30 minutes. It probably shouldn't have took that long, but you probably do it way faster. But yeah, this is super simple. You don't have to worry about getting something that's expensive and that's gonna just break within a couple months. These things have been running for me consistently for a year since I've switched over. Trust me, I've tried a bunch of humidifiers. These are by far the best ones and hardy. It's just funny because they don't put these in the aisle with the other humidifiers in Target. You're gonna have to check your pharmacy aisle because that's where these will be. They will not be in the humidifier aisle where the rest of them are. These are kind of individually by themselves, where like if you have like a cold and flu kind of thing, that's what these are for. So these are the oh, and the water blows really cold on these. So if you have highland Nepenthes, that's probably why mine grows so well. It's just because it does drop the temperature by like 15 degrees or 10 degrees, depending on the day itself and the temperature within the room or your grow tent. But yeah, enough about that. This is optional if you want it, but definitely something to look into if you want to go with a setup with the tank. All right, let's go ahead and jump into getting the tank set up. The tank setup itself is pretty simple, but now we have the bottom camera here. So first you want to use your perlite. Nothing too complicated. You want to go ahead and cover the bottom. Now you can pre-rinse your perlite so that way it's not all dusty like mine, but the plants don't really care, to be honest. So you can go ahead and pat it down here, just like that. If you can see that on the bottom camera here. You just want to pat it down. And that should be a little bit, that should be okay, but I'm going to put a little bit more because I like to have a little bit bigger of a drainage layer. Now, one thing I will say, when doing this tank setup, you're going to want to make sure your pots itself are also within a drainage layer, just in case. You never know what can happen. You can easily, you know, with a tank setup, you can actually easily overwater your plant. So when you do a tank setup, you want to have a drainage layer on inside the pot itself. So I'm gonna show you real quickly. This is what I mean. So you see how there's the soil, and this is a drainage layer here. So let's say this plant is sitting in the tank already. You overwater it, but now you have that extra security. So that way the plant doesn't have any issues about getting like overwatered or anything like that. Whoa, the perlite. Should have watered it down. Anyways, so that's one thing you can for sure do, and you don't have to worry about that. That's just a little bit of a peace of mind that you can do. But yeah, I would say if you're gonna do a tank setup, you want to just make sure that you have a drainage layer for your tank for your plants, uh, as extra security. Not necessary, but necessary. All right, so now that we have the perlite drainage layer, it's a little thick. It's about that thick here, if you can see on the bottom camera. It's nothing too crazy. You don't need to have that much of a layer there. So now you're gonna want to go ahead and grab your mesh layer. You're gonna go ahead and put it in the tank. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. Before I already had this tank set up, but I had to redo it. Some of the plants got really big in here. So there you go, fit to size. Now the thing with the mesh layer I didn't cover before is you're not going to want to use a metal layer whatsoever, because that can potentially kill your plant, just because if there is water sitting on the bottom here, this will start to slowly rust and it can poison your plant over time. So in that case, you want to use something such as a screen for like a window. These I've never had any problem with them. I use them even in my reptile tanks and everything, and you get a big roll for a couple dollars, and so you can't go wrong with them. It's usually like some sort of like coated. They're usually waterproof, just because they do have to withstand the harsh elements outside, because they sit on the outside of your window. So you just want to make sure it's not a metal mesh, just a nice kind of a plastic soft mesh material. Usually what they use on like a soft tank, but yeah, that's a different topic. Anyways, so now that you have your drainage layer and your mesh layer, you want to go ahead and grab your moss. So go ahead and grab your moss, sprinkle it in there. You don't have to be extremely pretty with it. Just want to make sure that it's full coverage here. Now the great thing about this is that not only will, when you start to water, the sphagnum moss and the jungle mix will suck up most of the water. So they're going to hold the predominant of the water, and they're going to pretty much make sure that your plants don't get overwatered. That's what I've noticed. On top of that, you're going to get free sphagnum, live sphagnum. Over time, this stuff does grow back. Even the jungle moss grows really nice. It grows like very green and very fluffy. Actually, I got a little piece right here. If you can see that, just a little green. I don't know if you can see that. Or maybe I'll do the bottom camera here, you guys can see that. But yeah, this stuff will grow on its own. It'll look really nice in the tank. You don't have to worry, no worries about that at all. A little bit more. Boom, just like that. Okay. All right, now that you have your moss on the bottom, this is what I would call like a first layer of moss. What you can do now from here, you can take your plant. This is a Nepenthes Veitchii loei campanulata from Native Exotics. I just acquired this one. It looks pretty good. Looks a little red and stuff like that. The growth is going to be pretty cool on this guy. So we're just going to use him as a prop. I'll probably actually put this guy in this tank, but I usually put like the little seedlings in here. So you're going to go ahead and kind of move some of the moss, so that way this plant is on the drainage layer itself, just like that. And then you're going to go ahead and pat it in, just like this. Then you're going to take more sphagnum moss, and you're going to sprinkle it around it. All right. I personally don't like seeing the pot, so I pretty much cover it almost to the brim of the top of the pot. I didn't think I'd bring enough moss to do so, but usually when I do that, there's like a big thick line of sphagnum moss, and this is only going to help increase your chances of getting more live sphagnum moss growing in your tank. And like I said, this stuff is going to look really nice and stuff like that. Now, here's another awesome thing about having a sphagnum moss. Now, no matter what you do, there's always going to be little live bugs within your sphagnum moss. Doesn't matter. Someone can say that they've completely cleaned it. You're going to still get some sort of little bug in your sphagnum moss. And what's going to happen is that as these plants develop, they're also going to get fed I get springtails usually within these. Usually it's just springtails. It's never anything that can actually truly harm your plant. And the springtails will easily climb into the pitcher and get eaten. And your plant will grow substantially much larger. Like, it's crazy on how you see things, how this grows. Because the things you don't see are the things that the pitcher plant pretty much eats all the time. So that is pretty much how you do it. Let's see if I can grab another guy here. I'll go ahead and grab this guy. This is one of my cuttings. This is actually from the original plant that came here. This guy got extremely large, so it created 3 basils for me. But go ahead and, again, move space. Boom, just in there. Now it's sitting perfectly. Now you can probably fit, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 plants in this tank. Smaller plants, obviously. Now they will get overcrowded very quickly, but if you're trying to quickly grow your plants out, the tank method is a very excellent way to do so. These plants will grow like wildfire once they get the humidity up and everything, because Nepenthes are complete fiends for humidity and making sure that the lighting is perfect. Usually when a light is a little bit closer though, you'll see a little bit more reddish in the leaves, so the plant will be always a little bit more red. You can see, if you get it from a grower, you can see that they've obviously used more LED than sun. In my opinion, that's what I kind of see. I don't know, because I never really contacted them like that, but that's how I see it on my plants. The leaves become more red when you use more of a purplish white hue light. They get more coloration in the leaves. All right, so now we have that guy. Let's see if I can grab something else. I'm not gonna grab anything else right now. There's a couple other plants, but I have to move a lot of stuff around. So we got the 2 plants in here now, right? They look good. They look perfect. Now trust me, this is something that's gonna have to grow out over time. You don't really have to do much. You just add your sphagnum moss and keep everything moving. Right? For the sake of the video, I'm just gonna add a little bit more. Make sure we kind of cover the sides and tops. You want to leave just a little lip, and this is where the green sphagnum moss will grow in and look really nice on your plants. Yeah, I usually try to go for like the more naturalistic green moss look, like some of the famous growers within the community and stuff like that. They have really beautiful elaborate setups for their plants, and that's kind of what I try to do here with the tank setups. So that's something that I try to do. But remember, right in the beginning though, because if you don't have live sphagnum moss to put on top, which you can do, the plant's gonna, the tank is gonna look a little ugly, other than the plants and their beauty themselves. All right, so now that we have that set up, because I'm talking forever, we have the layers set up. Now you're gonna want to take your aluminum, and you're gonna want to go ahead and coat the side and the back here. You're gonna want to use the reflective side more than the other side here, because this is more dull and it's less reflective than this side. Obviously you can see that in the video here. Boom, boom. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to do it right now because that would take a lot of time. But yeah, you're going to want to make sure that it sits nice and flush, such as this. You're going to cut the size, and usually I use like a nice straight edge blade to cut right within the groove here, and then that way it just looks perfect. It's seamless. You'd almost think that the tank came with some sort of covering like that. Like it looks like a grow tank in itself. All right. So now that I've rambled forever, you're gonna take the last piece of resistance and you're gonna put your lid and cover it just like that. Boom. Something like that. You just got a simple tank setup. Super easy, not very complicated. I probably made the video way longer than it needs to be, but I just wanted to make sure I cover everything so there's not a bunch of questions regarding this. But like I said, you could for sure hit me up and I'll still answer your questions. I try to get to everyone because we've had a big influx in subscribers, which I really appreciate every one of you, because we are over 100 now, which is crazy because I didn't think anyone would ever watch these videos. But yeah, that is a simple tank setup. If you're wondering the size of this tank, this is a 5-gallon fish tank that you can get at PetSmart for. I got this on $1 per gallon, so this was only $5. But I also have a 20-gallon over here on the bottom, and then I have a 40-gallon that's sitting outside that I'm actually going to set up pretty soon, and it will have the same exact setup like this. Nothing else is going to change because the plants really do grow really well in a setup just like this. Other than that, once you put the lid on, you can go ahead and start to spray it with no hesitation, no problems. Like I said, you don't have to use a humidifier to keep humidity levels up. You could easily just go in here once a day, just do a quick little spray. You don't have to overwater or anything, like I said, because the plant, this is going to keep humidity levels really high most of the time. I don't currently have a gauge, but I will put a gauge in here. And once I set this up and everything, I'll show you guys. We'll do a little bit of a B-roll kind of show on this. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, on setting up a tank fixture or tank setup. And then you want to put your light obviously on top, and it'll look beautiful, look cool. With this particular tank, I'm actually going to set this up into a more of a kind of a mixture between intermediate and highland, because I'm moving my red hairy Hermata or Diabolica into this tank and my Velosas into this. And I'm gonna have both the grow light, the humidifier, and the little cool tank temperature drop. I don't know exactly what to call it right now, but I'm gonna be hooking all this up, so it's gonna look like some sort of lab experiment. But I'm just kind of experimenting with it just to see how this one would work. But I actually did get a comment from one of you guys saying I should use a water chiller, and I actually did look into that, and that was a really good idea. I've never even thought of that. So I'm actually going to create a little system to see if that works, and then I'll keep you guys updated. I can't exactly remember who suggested that, but I'll put your name here somewhere. But yeah, that's a really good idea. If you guys ever have any tips or tricks about that, or that you think I can use, hit me up, because I'll definitely try it out and everything like that. So alright guys, thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Again, thank you so much for 100 subscribers. We'll do a giveaway if we get to like 500 subscribers. I'm not trying to be greedy, but I'm just saying, you know, we'll do a giveaway. We'll do a plant giveaway. Hopefully I can do it to a worldwide giveaway for a plant. But if we can't do that, we're still gonna do like the clothing stuff, because we do make clothing, we do make face masks and everything like that. So you can go ahead and check the link in the description below. I'll leave all the links for this stuff in the description below if you guys want to do a similar setup. And yeah, honestly, this setup probably cost, I would say at most, if you didn't want to go crazy, $50. If you want to go a little bit crazier with the supplies and stuff, at most maybe like $100. That's like the top end of really trying to do this. But yeah, this setup is super simple, especially if you get the tank at like $5, or you go to like OfferUp or something like that, and you find a used tank, which would probably even be bigger for less money, and you could probably do this for something under like under $20. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, I need to stop rambling. Thanks everyone, and have an awesome day.